breaking communication in certain places. And I don't know if that's the frustration that I'm hearing, particularly within the HR sector, is that your C-suites are sitting here and they want one thing, HR want another thing, and the actual staff want a completely different thing. And ever since the advent of COVID, we thought it was bad before, but it's gotten worse. Is this what's happening? Because I'm realizing that as we're speaking, is that table that we all should be sitting around and talking about these major issues has become so small, with a very small pool of decision makers that are not listening to anyone else. And I'm gathering this, and this is something that I hope we can come to terms with as we go through these next 2 days. But we need to force that door open, and as HR, you guys need to bang your way through the door and sit at that table and make them listen to you, because it seems to be one of the big problems. But a company that says that they are doing it the right way is one that, of course, works in the local government sphere. And this is the South African Local Government Association, and that, of course, is SALGA we're talking about. The next panel that we're going to be having, moderated by Pindiwe Gida, who is the Chief Officer of Human Capital and Corporate Services at SALGA, is going to come up. They're going to be talking about how SALGA is actually revolutionizing HR in the public sector. So, Pindiwe, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce your panelists and get going on our topic. Let's give them a round of applause.
The South African Local Government Association, SALGA, has a constitutional mandate to oversee local government operations. Its primary objective is to facilitate the transformation of local government into a service-oriented entity that caters to the needs of the people. Empowering local government and providing it with adequate resources is crucial for fulfilling its essential role of delivering high-quality services to the community. SALGA strategically acquires human capital by harnessing the energy of individuals, fostering key capabilities, and promoting leadership development. The expertise and dedication of the SALGA team extend beyond engaging and supporting local government alone. The team actively engages with Parliament, Cabinet, legislators nationwide, both public and private sectors, as well as international stakeholders and partners, all of whom contribute to the well-being of local municipalities.
Good morning, everybody. Come on. We are the only public sector panel you're going to have here. Can you give us a little bit more? Thank you. That sounds more like it. I've got with me an interesting panel. I've got Maureen Magolane. She is the Senior Manager for Remuneration and HRIS and Analytics at SALGA. Maureen, you can come on stage, please. Then I have Diana Mbata. She is also Senior Manager, Organization Effectiveness at SALGA. Lita Bogoto. Lita is our partner in the digitization process. He is the chairperson of Tsori Capital and Onesi. And then we've got Zmasa Koyana. She is a Director of Corporate Services at Senqu Local Municipality. Thank you and welcome. So today we do want to bring a little bit of a different perspective in terms of the local government space and to some extent a bit about the public sector in general. And we're having this conversation on the back of a introduction of a government of national unity, on the back of the Auditor General's results on the municipal audit outcomes. So you have a bit of hope with the government of national unity, and we have a lot of worry and concerns and gloom and doom in terms of how the municipalities are performing. Well, it's a dichotomy we have to live with in all our areas of work and life. It's just that this one, where we live, it's so much in the public eye and everyone talks about it because it affects our everyday lives. But we're coming here today to say it's not all doom and gloom. And we do want to highlight and share with you some of the good stories and pockets of excellence that are happening, and certainly what SALGA is doing out there in the local government space to try and make sure that you ultimately get a better experience as a citizen of the country. And good morning to those that are joining us online as well. So just to kick us off, I'm going to start with you, Diana. And I also just want to showcase not only the work we are doing, but also the people that we have, you know. Diana has a background, many years in the private sector, and we brought her specifically for that background because we want to transform the sector where we are working. So with your background, Diana, can you please just reflect for us on the transformative initiatives that SALGA is implementing and why it was important to ensure that, and why these are important to ensure that SALGANs and the employees we work with actually have a great employee experience?
Yeah, hi everyone. So, you know, with the kind of HR we had previously, we had to take a step back and completely revolutionize the HR strategy. So that meant that if we wanted our employees to have a great employee experience, we tackled and grappled with each step of the employee value proposition. That took a while, but I think it was a worthwhile process. The first step we did really was to run a culture survey. I know we spoke a little bit about it previously, but it was really the first time that SALGA had a proper, deliberate culture survey that was seeking to clearly understand what employees were experiencing and how they were feeling. From that culture survey, two important things emerged. The employee value proposition. We even ran a campaign that says, we heard, we listened, and we are delivering, because they spoke and we listened. And we needed to understand what is it that mattered the most to SALGA employees. What made them tick? What made them want to stay at SALGA and contribute to local government? And with that information, with that data, we crafted our employee value proposition. Secondly, we cared a lot about them being psychologically connected to the organization. So we started to also run a survey around the net engagement score to understand where they are, you know. We don't want, obviously, disengaged employees, but we then want to know what can we do to make your stay worthwhile, your career grow in such a way that inspires the employees. So I just want to share slightly around our employee value proposition pillars. I think firstly and most importantly is the employer brand. So we wanted to make sure that SALGA has a strong brand, but I'll unpack them as I speak. That brand, we're hoping it will bring the second thing, a dynamic culture through the inspiring leadership that we have at SALGA. We have great leadership, but we needed to hone in that critical leadership skill to providing our employees with an opportunity to impact local government. It was interesting for me to come in from private sector straight to local government, not even national, but you know, it really is about an opportunity to make an impact. And obviously investing in our talent. If we want our employees to grow and to continue to be great, we needed to make sure that we invest in them. So we took the culture as the tree, and the branches that grew from the culture was leadership work. For the first time last year, we brought all the SALGA leaders together to share with them what employees were saying, so that they can start to discuss and agree on what they are going to do as leaders. I think also just around their own leadership skill, what culture taught us is that there are critical things we need to look at if we want SALGA to be a futuristic organization. And so we use that even for our leadership journey. The second piece around, and that's how we do dynamic culture, by the way. So the second piece around inspiring or investing in our talent is that we do normal learning, and we have talent management that creates different pools, and we give them then the learning. But we've started to look at strategic talent growth that is tailor-made for the different type of employees we have. Different job families, different levels. For instance, we have a big wave of line manager development program where we've taken out all line managers to tell them how to manage the SALGA way. It's about the self, how to grow, to be self-aware, how do you become the leader that you would also want, and how do you effectively manage your teams, especially bringing in the people practices, understanding organizational points that are important for managers. We found some managers would just look at their work and their teams, but some of us, if you're like me, finance is a foreign concept, you know? And so the line manager, for instance, development program did that. We brought about coaching for some of our leaders. And I think the talent management conversation or practice was implemented for the first time at SALGA two years ago. And in that, we really gathered a lot of data. It was quite interesting, even for our leaders, to understand what is this talent management, what do you do, what is that strategy, you know? And I can tell you, for example, we found gems, proper gems in SALGA. I'm sure we would all agree. One of the most important resources, energy, water. I think most of us, when we don't have electricity, we feel like pulling our hair, and water is the most important resource. But we found that there are people who are engineers in those fields, very scarce skill, but the important thing was that they were impacting local government. They would go out there to municipalities and help them. They would go out there to specific stakeholders, you know, to try and create logical and timeous or quick solutions for the country. But all of that came through the practice of talent management. And now, you know, we had to ask ourselves, how do we retain these people? How do we help them to continue to be dynamic? I think one of the other pieces then that helped us to retain the kind of people we retain is employee recognition. So for example, last week Friday, we had an event recognizing our top performers, people who go the extra mile in what they do, people who go over and above in saying, I care enough about our municipalities, about service delivery, although we are not in municipalities, but we are there to assist municipalities, and we are recognizing those people. And the kind of feedback that you get, you know, people feel so overwhelmed about being recognized by the whole organization. So those are some of the issues, I think, the journey that we've been through in the past 4 years. I think we started this in 2020.
I'm hearing a number of firsts in what you're talking about: culture, talent. This didn't happen and I'm hearing a lot about impact to municipalities. Unpack your EVP statement a bit for us. What is it about it that talks to the impact you are referring to?
I think in our EVP, we make a promise to our employees. And they've seen that we are actually delivering on the promise. And we say that the promise is for them, we will give them opportunities to make an impact, to grow their careers, to connect with key stakeholders. I myself am experiencing that, I think coming in fresh from private sector. Yeah, I think that's the key thing about our EVP. And finally, we give employees that because we say more than anything, we don't do what we do because, you know, it's our jobs, because we want to wake up and work and get a salary. It's because we have a real commitment towards our municipalities and towards our communities. All of us here live in a certain municipality. And so SALGA really does ultimately impact each and every one of us sitting in this room.
Thank you. Maureen, let's come to you. You are in the space of HRIS and analytics. So tell us, why was it important for SALGA to initiate the digital transformation of HR processes?
So it was important, I mean, looking back at where we come from in terms of HR systems. The legacy systems could not cater for all the HR modules that we needed. And due to the nature of the technology that was on those platforms, it was impossible to try and upgrade or even enhance the system. The other thing is that we realized that it was very costly to manage and maintain, and also lack of automated reporting and analytics. So we just needed to go back to the drawing board, to do some research, and also craft our desired state. What is it that we want? I mean, Diana here has been talking about the great HR programs and initiatives that we have been doing. So imagine if we don't have a system that can host all that information that we have. So we then realized that for us to move forward, we need an integrated cloud-based system that can assist us to deliver the management of the entire employee life cycle. Based on that, we then started to do research. We did benchmarking, and then after all of that, we then chose Onesi. The reason why we chose Onesi is that it's cloud-based, which is what we wanted. It's integrated. We have all the HR modules, including payroll. So for us, it's a great achievement because we have a single source of truth. And also taking into consideration that about 75% of our workforce is externally based, that is, they go and support the municipalities. So with a cloud-based system like that, they are able to access the system anytime, anywhere. If they want to transact on the system, if you are a manager, you want to approve leave, you can do that from any device, anywhere. The other thing is, in terms of the system, it's customizable. If you look at our processes, we wanted to move away from paper-based processes and then automate the processes. So the nature of our business, we have a delegation of authority. So you'll find that we have multiple approvers And then that means that we need to be able to customize the system to cater for that, and Onesi has done that successfully. It's a cost-effective system, it's scalable, so we don't have to worry. In case our organization grow, we don't have to worry about space. And most of all, it has the automated reporting and analytics capabilities, so that we are able to automate our reports, we are able to build our own dashboards, and we get that with real-time data. And then it's because it's fully integrated with applications like your Power BI and your Power Query. So far, it's been a challenging journey. We launched in 2022, and challenging but very successful. And at this point, we are very confident and comfortable to share our internal successes with the municipalities and all the local government.
Thank you, Maureen. And here's the real case study here. We've partnered with Onesi on this journey, and of course, they're working with not only with SALGA, but with other public entities as well, to say that these good things that Maureen and Diana talk about, how do we then take them to the municipalities to capacitate them also to do what they're supposed to do to deliver services to you. Lita, what has been the journey like? Talk to us about some of the challenges as a service provider, especially in terms of how digital transformation is professionalizing the public sector.
Thank you very much. Greetings to everyone. Thank you for the question. Let me start with the last part of the question. The issue of SALGA's digital transformation that contributes to professionalizing the local government has actually found expression in the draft national framework, towards professionalization of public service. His Excellency President Ramaphosa made a statement of support, citing that this framework aims to build a state that will better serve the people, that is insulated from undue political interference, where appointments are made based on merit. And he further says that all often people have been hired into or promoted to key positions of which they're neither suitable or qualified. And this affects the local government performance and also contributes to nepotism, political interference, leading to lack of accountability, mismanagement and corruption. So digital transformation is necessary for the professionalization of workforce. And digital transformation helps improve efficiencies, increase output and promotes ethical state free of corruption workforce. The framework that I made mention of, it's got five pillars that are part of the value chain of professionalizing the public service workforce. So it talks about recruitment and selection as the first pillar. It talks about induction and onboarding as the second pillar. It talks about planning and performance management as the third pillar. The fourth pillar is continuing learning and professional development. And the last pillar, it talks about career progression and succession planning. So SALGA is at the forefront of digital transformation of local government and has partnered with Onesi. Onesi has developed locally a cloud-based end-to-end HR solution that is proudly South African, that is in all languages. We currently have presence in about 10 countries. We cover private and public sector. We cover a number of modules from your organizational management, where your org structures, your positions, and your job profiles are maintained. We cover your talent acquisitions, which talks to e-recruitment and onboarding, cover your personal data, your employee documents, assets, declaration, health, safety, and wellness, leave. We cover performance management. We cover employee development. We cover learning management, HR policies, and payroll. So this partnership with SALGA has actually placed a lot of emphasis on reporting and analytics. So the aim is to allow municipalities to be able to use data on the system to help make decisions and increase productivity. The end goal is to be able to use that data to forecast, which is called predictive analysis, relating to workforce before things actually happen, and so that we can better plan and be prepared. So to date, SALGA has actually rolled out, together with ONESI, has rolled out performance management module to a number of municipalities. And this will help improve efficiencies within the local government and provide performance management environment that is free from bias, driven by portfolio of evidence, allowing the performers to be rewarded and the underperformers to be helped, trained, and corrective measures to be in place. This effectively will improve service delivery once it's fully deployed. In the context of this theme, I would say it talks about the future of HR. I would say the future of HR is in this partnership of ONESI and SALGA. So basically, in terms of the challenges, you spoke to the challenges. I think for us, the biggest challenge was inadequate planning. And this planning doesn't only talk to ONESI, it also talks to the clients that we are targeting to deploy the system to. So we have to plan together so that at least we are aligned. And the second one was the lack of middle management and lower level support. So you'll find out that the system has now gotten a buy-in at the top level, but that hasn't filtered through to everyone within the organization or municipality. So then it creates challenges in terms of deployment. And the third thing that we've also experienced was that the project champions, their scorecard was not linked to the implementation. And therefore, they wouldn't give this enough time to be able to succeed in the implementation. And then the other one was the resistance to change. Stakeholders preferred the status quo, and mainly because it's a new system and they were scared of it. So that also presented a challenge for us. And the last two were basically that data migration and data accuracy. And mainly because data had been captured in spreadsheets and in Excel, like basically documents, like Word documents. So the accuracy of it and how the data has actually been the form it was in, it required a data cleansing. So those are some of the challenges that we experienced during the implementation. Thank you.
Just picking up on the issue of resistance to change, why do you think that was the case? If you're thinking local government space, if you're thinking accountability, if you're thinking performance management, what were the particular issues around resistance to change on automation of those HR processes?
I think the biggest one was that the system is new, and one, they don't know, and it requires them to actually open up to learning. And two is that people could hide behind the current processes, because those processes are not measurable. So you don't have really portfolio of evidence that you can get in real time just by pressing a button. So the status quo worked for them, and hence, people have been complaining about service delivery. Now with this, digital transformation, it then brings in a challenge for them because now everyone has to be accountable. And things have to be measurable. You actually have to be able to prove that what you did, you actually did. And it sits in the system. And those that have got, rights to actually access will be able to access those through, the controls. Thanks.
Okay. Well, let's hear from a beneficiary of this process, if it really does do what we are promising should be doing for them. Zimas, tell us about your municipalities to start with. Where are you? What size, nature of municipality are you?
Okay. Now, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm from Sengu local municipality. We're based in the Eastern Cape. Our municipality is a very small rural municipality. In terms of square kilometer coverage, we're just under 74,000 square kilometers. And we have got 3 main hubs. That's how small we are. So our little towns, we've got only 3 of those. But as a small municipality, we have been known to have a big voice when it comes to clean administration and running a municipality. For the last 10 years, in 9 of the last 10 years, we've achieved clean audits as a municipality. Yeah, and I mean, if you look at our story, that did not come by accident. No, was there a magic wand in terms of doing that, but it just needed the municipality to take a decision that we're going to do things right for the right reasons as well. We started out where everybody started out. We had disclaimers at some point, we had adverse findings, had qualifications and all of that, but we said, no, this is not what we want to be known for. There is one thing that we'd like to be known for, that is, we'll start with clean administration and everything else will follow. We'll use the lessons that we've learned from that process, from building up that process and sustaining that process. And once we are comfortable, we can then move and start sorting out other issues as well. If I share our story in terms of how we got there were really 4 things that we considered as a municipality. And I'm going to talk to them from an HR perspective. I know that AG audits are more financial, service delivery, HR, so different directorates. But because we are in an HR conference, I just want to share what we did to move away from the undesirable state to where we are today. Even in the last audit, we obtained another clean audit. So there are 4 really elements that we said, okay, let's as an institution work around 4 things. And if we do these things right, then we're gonna get to the desired state. The first one was, this needs to be led by politicians and also led by administration. But in terms of leading that, how do they lead that? It needed to start at the top, where we change the mindset and create a mind shift. So we needed to have an attitude that says we can do it. We might not do it overnight, but with time, with perseverance, we can do it. And that's what we exactly did. So leadership's main role was to get buy-in, get us moving, get us to have strategies that we would then implement and monitor those strategies in terms of what's happening now. And where there is support required, provide that particular support. The second one was then, but how are we structured as an institution? Is it going to allow us to get to what we want to do at the end of the day? So we needed to check whether our architect talked to what we needed at the end of the day. So the organizational structure became very critical in that context. And then there was the issue of accountability. That mindset that I was talking about was then that, look, if you want to run a clean administration, you must always be conscious of the fact that you're spending someone else's money, and that you need to be prudent in terms of how you are using someone's money. But also, secondly, you needed to make sure that we have systems in place that would allow us to account. So the whole issue of PMS, I think we're one of the few municipalities that started introducing PMS to levels lower than senior managers, because at the time, PMS was only peremptory for senior managers. But we said, if we're going to be monitoring what we do and create some sort of accountability, we're going to cascade down PMS to lower levels as well. So when the staff regulations came out in 2021, directing municipalities to do that, we had long been in the game. And then the last one was then the control environment. In terms of the control environment, yes, we have policies, we have systems, we've got procedures in place, but did our people know about those? So we started making sure that we talk to them and we try and workshop people in terms of what are the controls that are needed to place and how do they apply, so that all the time they have to be conscious of the fact that how do these controls that I've put in place apply to my role as an individual. So that's what led us to where we are today.
Congratulations. PMS, by the way, is the performance management system.
Oh, sorry.
Just in case. So Zimasa, share with us, how has the implementation of Honesty changed your lives as a municipality? How is it helping you towards delivering better service to your community?
Okay. So, as a municipality, we've got this attitude that we've got a social contract with our communities. And as you are aware, when you have a contract with someone, the two parties have got obligations. As a municipality, we've got obligation towards the citizens, and they have got obligations towards us. But where do we get this contract? It's not something that we formulated from the top of our heads. It comes from the Constitution, so it is binding that municipalities must have a social contract with the citizens. And it's in Section 152 of the Constitution in terms of the objects of local government. So that was the first step, that we needed to have that mindset that we've got that social contract. But having that social contract also then means that in terms of your deliverables within this contract, that on an annual basis, you know what you need to deliver, and that you must monitor whether you are delivering what you're supposed to be delivering on an annual basis. So we would have an institutional performance that we would have, but that would then trickle down to individual performance. So in 2022, in the financial year 2022-2023, as an institution, we're not very happy about how we had performed in that year in terms of the contract that I was talking about. And we then had a step back to say what had happened, what had happened. And we then also as corporate services said, look, in terms of the things that we have identified that happened, maybe also us as the owners of individual performance did let down the municipality, because out of the targets that were set for us that in that particular year, we only achieved 93%, and the 7% unfortunately included PMS, where there was non-compliance with deadlines and all of that. And that non-compliance was not as a result of lack of capable people to do it, but it was for the reasons that my colleague here has just mentioned to you, that at that time we were still using paper-based spreadsheets and all of that. So it was a very daunting task for a lot of people. But there were a lot of things that were going wrong in terms of data, in terms of submissions, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, if I tell you at the end of that financial year, out of 54, in that financial year, out of 54 people who were supposed to conclude performance agreements, only 34 did. So you can see how difficult it was for us to do that. Then we came to an annual conference. In the annual conference, SALGA introduced Honesty and then said they were looking for municipalities where they could pilot this project. We put up our hand and we said we want to be part of that. So that's how it started. And SALGA then formed a team of people that worked with us. And, you know, if I can tell you that from the minute we worked with them, they understood exactly what we wanted. They listened to us. They did not force down a system on us. They customized it to our needs. And we had a lot of engagements in terms of what we needed and how it was going to be achieved. But I think going back to also what my colleague said, one of the things that we did when we came back from the conference, we involved senior management. We sold the idea to senior management. We involved middle managers. So we sold that so that, you know, we could have buy-in in terms of moving from the system, because it is quite true, especially in local government, when you change, when you want to bring about change, you do get sometimes some form of resistance. So we didn't want that when we implement this system, that now we find that we can't because people are unhappy about what's going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. But also, we had a timing issue. The timing issue was that we only started working with them in May. So, and we wanted to go live in July. Our financial year starts in July. So in this financial year, we wanted to have gone live in this financial year. So we had stringent turnaround times. But the way they availed themselves to us, you know, both SALGA and Honesty, the way they availed themselves to us, they were part of the engagement with management, with staff at the municipality, and we got the buy-in that we wanted. And we did go live on the 1st of July, and this year we saw an increase of people who complied with the first part, which is a conclusion of agreements, moved from 34 to 49. So it did make a difference in terms of that. So we're still at the phase where we've just done that, but we'll see how it goes at the end of this quarter. But it's a really, really nice system, and I think they're very supportive. They are at our beck and call. Anything that we need, both parties are there available to assist. Thank you.
Okay. I like how you are able to link, I mean, a lot of the issues that end up in qualified audits is not because the work didn't get done, right? But because you can't find records, you can't find where is what to be able to account what you did with the public money that you were entrusted with. So, and how we are able to link this process with your ability to do better by your social partners. In the interest of time, I'm going to ask each of you to comment on what I'm going to ask, but also add in your concluding remarks so you can see the time. It means we've got 2 minutes for each person, right? So, Maureen, I want to start with you, Diana. You spoke about a lot of these new processes you introduced. So just quickly reflect on what was the response from the organization? Because as I said earlier, you spoke about a lot of firsts. What was the response and how have you navigated that journey? And you can conclude about with what's exciting for you with this work you're doing and the journey going forward.
So at first, I think with any change, people were wondering, why is HR calling us for this engagement and that engagement, and what's this new thing? I think over time, because what we were bringing them looked like what they needed and what they wanted and what they were yearning for, then there was much interest, there was good feedback from across the organization. And we were even beyond what they received. We even asked to say some of these firsts that we brought in, can we help take it out to municipalities? So for instance, the performance management, the culture, even change management, the digital team said, as we implement some of the digital solutions in municipalities, you know, we need your change management skills to come. So I think when employees internally saw how good the journey is, they wanted to take it outside. Look, we are not near where we want to be, but we are definitely not where we used to be. We are very far from where we used to be. In terms of me, look, you know, the thing about being in private sector is that most of HR practices are matured or near matured. It's something else to come into a completely new environment that doesn't have the right practices and starting from scratch to design and build, knock on doors and engage people for buy-in and eventually people are excited that they come and ask. For me, that's the most fulfilling thing. I mean, if I say my purpose is being a catalyst for change, and the great thing is that SALGA provides you with that opportunity to just change.
Thank you. Maureen, data analytics, workforce productivity. How is that panning out for you with your data in honesty? And also reflect on why is it exciting for you?
Okay. So when we started, we then had to identify the level that we were at in terms of the data analytics maturity. And at that point, we were basically at the lowest, which was transactional level. And with the implementation of Onissi and the capabilities that it has in terms of reporting and analytics, I comfortably saying that at this point, we have managed to move from that transactional level up to the predictive analytics level, where we have conducted an exercise early this year. We did a turnover prediction exercise, and then based on the insights that we got from that exercise, we are then able to strengthen our retention strategies. So analytics really help us to make informed decisions. Diana mentioned that the EVP pillars were crafted based on the data and the insight that they collected from the employees to make sure that the EVP pillars are relevant. It talks to what the employees really value and want from the organization. And again, with that PND, like Diana mentioned, that at the start, the team started by doing the strategy for HR, and then with that, with analytics and with the data that we get from Honesty, we are then able to develop the metrics that are relevant for us to be able to monitor the progress towards achievement of our strategic objectives. We are able to measure the impact of the HR programs that we do. And yeah, so the decisions that we take are basically fact-based, but not forgetting that there are key considerations that we always look at is that we need to have that analytic capability. We need to have the data that is of high quality, that is reliable, that is accurate. And the good thing on our side is that we do have all of that. We have Power BI. We can create our own dashboards that are interactive, and that is real-time data because it's fully integrated with our core system.
Thank you. How is the future looking like for you on your implementation journey, and looking at what other municipalities are you looking at bringing on board on this journey? And yeah.
No, thank you. I think the conferences like these, they help. One is just to create awareness so that at least people know that the challenges that they're experiencing, there are solutions out there to actually implement. So there's no reason for any municipality not to achieve clean audit. There's no reason for any municipality not to be in the forefront of the service delivery. So I think as Onesi, we are quite excited about this journey. We know it's not going to be an easy one. There's still a lot of resistance in terms of even the workforce itself, adopting a new way of doing things. But we accept and embrace that challenge. And I think we are also excited about the potential jobs that as Onesi we could be creating as well as we grow. I mean, we are in 10 countries, but if we are able to grow even within the country, we'll be even employing more developers than what we have. We'll be employing like business analysts more than what we have. So there's actually, quite nice prospects for the country, and we are excited. Thank you very much.
I must tell you, the good thing about working with Honesty is that they are developers. So we are able to tell them, we want this, we want that feature. And then Shempoa them and Maureen, they come and tell me, oh no, we can't do this. I'm saying, you can. Tell Richard. Tell Richard. The organization doesn't wait for them to figure out how to do it. They must do it because we want it. And they are able to. 2 seconds. Your closing comments.
Okay. Mine would be that, after the closing date and the closing time was 12 o'clock on the 31st of July. And on the 1st of August, when I walked into the office block, I was expecting to see grumpy people because they had stayed up until, you know how people are, they like leaving things to the last minute. But people were very happy, I was amazed by how happy they were that the system was user-friendly. We've got connectivity problems in our area, and also our infrastructure as a municipality still needs to be upgraded so that it can be compatible with most systems. But with this one, we didn't get that. Nobody said there were glitches in terms of I couldn't submit because there were glitches, because I think of the way in which it's set up, it's web-based. So, and people could access it from anywhere. So the municipality as a whole is very excited about this project. We're looking for other projects that would improve our other HR processes. Thank you so much.
So there it is, colleagues. If you're wanting to make a difference in our beautiful South African country, you don't have to work for a municipality. There's other platforms and opportunities you can do that. Thank you very much. Do we have time for questions, Leanne? Okay, time is up. Thank you. You'll find us outside if you want to engage and ask questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to everybody. Sorry for being a strict timekeeper, but I'm seeing where we're at the moment, and we've got quite a few panels to get through and a keynote speaker, and we've got to fit lunch in. So, but I think you guys did a fantastic job of covering a lot of those issues, so thank you very much. That is going to lead me straight into our next panel discussion, and this one is entitled The Role of AI in Talent Sourcing and Hiring. Okay, so that's a big one, it really is. And I am going to be calling up my panelists now. Firstly, we've got Nomsa Lewisa, who is the IT executive for employee and workplace enablement at Old Mutual. Then I've got Tembi Manyike, who's the head of talent acquisition and strategic transformation at Santam Insurance. Inga Marie Hilligan, who's safe and sound executive of Optics. And finally, Mishka. Mishka will join us for this one. Mishka Toth, who is the CEO and Business Director for Contract Services. Okay, let's give him a round of applause, everyone. All right, you can sit wherever you like. Have a seat.
At the end.
Okay, except for the end seat. I'll grab that one so I can see all of you. There we go. That's perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So nice to have all of you ladies. And this is a very important topic as well. I mean, this one where at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you get the best of the best in terms of talent. Nomsa, let me begin with you. So in Old Mutual, let's get an idea of how AI-driven tools are actually being utilized for candidate sourcing.
Thanks for that question, Leanne, and good afternoon to everybody. Hopefully we don't take too long so you can get to your lunch break.
No, we're a long way before lunch.
So on our side, we have a very, I'd say, robust and always continuously improving digital employee experience journey. So I look after employee digital enablement, which includes both human capital technology and digital workplace enablement. And as a whole, that makes up the digital employee experience. And we've gone on a journey to merge a number of segments and a number of platforms onto one platform. I believe the speaker, Kivesh, was here earlier, so we moved on to Workday a few years ago. And as we know, the guys that are on Workday themselves have always been about machine learning, and therefore it was easy for them to evolve into AI, and that has helped our journey quite a lot. So when AI came about and started becoming the buzzword, it wasn't necessarily too new for us because we've been using machine learning. We've been looking at ways on how to take advantage of machine learning to better improve our talent decisions. What we've started doing, though, is slowly exploring other tools that we can incorporate with our main platforms. So we're also looking at Microsoft from an AI, and we've really dabbled with Copilot. And as you would know, Copilot is also quite a strong AI tool as well. So incorporating a various number of tools and through our hackathons, quite a few bots that our graduates have built as well. So we run hackathons every now and then. Our graduates as well as employees build AI bots and other tools that we can incorporate into our HC processes. And we've started using that to look at how do we, besides just the attraction part of talent, once we've got the talent on board and in front of us, how do we better enable their careers as well? So from a talent acquisition point of view, from an AI point of view, it's really trying to look at how do you use AI to fast track that process. So where traditionally, you'd be screening through reams of paper, taking my word for it in terms of what I've put on the CV, what I've done, what I haven't done, and so on. If you really dabble with AI and start incorporating bots that really go and test the necessary things and sift out the necessary information from the system, from the applicant. It really makes your decisions easier. It also helps you between your different platforms before you even go out into the market to really check what do I have internally, what skills do I have against the projects that are coming up, and how can I merge those? So those are the things we've started considering and we'll be dabbling with as well. So how do we use AI to really scan our internal market, start to identify gaps between projects and the skills that we want, as well as what's available internally before we go externally, but also looking at, with us now on a journey to become a skills-based organization, how do we bring in competency libraries from the different places really into one place, merge it with our training, and be able to also develop our talent internally, which also fast-tracks the recruitment process as well.
All right, interesting. So, I mean, Mishka, from your side, you know, when we talk about the advantages of AI, what are they, these AI-driven tools in terms of, or in comparison to the old traditional ways?
Leanne, you know what? If I just think how much easier it is and how much time is saved today to get the right person. But recruitment actually starts long before we set out the advert or we're starting to look for the person. And communication is vital because my understanding of, for instance, a manager is different than yours. Yeah. So you have to match the two. You've got to understand what exactly are you looking at. And AI is phenomenal in that because it gathers information from everywhere. So your internal pool can actually first decide, how do I describe? So we put up the job description. And it is just, if you can think about traditional ways, we get everybody together and, you know, like a brainstorm or whatever it is, and we point, this is what I need for that, that's what I need for it. But it's internal and it's so limited. Where today AI literally writes up a job description for you, and obviously you go through the points and you decide, no, it's not for us, and we refine it. But then, together with that, when you put it out in the market, it's so much more, I think, fairer towards your employee, your candidate, because it brings it down to exactly what are we looking for.
Yeah.
And then we don't waste their time, because, I mean, perhaps once again, traditionally, sometimes we would bring people in for interviews because we're not 100% sure. So it's a time saver. It is down to that, so that's exactly what we're looking for. And AI brings us to refine that process in a phenomenal way. Even when we go back to background checks and we do it in BDCS, somebody spoke a bit earlier on about blue-collar workers. You know, a lot of these fine processes are being put in place for white-collar workers. But for us, it's vital to get the right people, because if we don't give the right people to our clients, and then, which is Inga Marie is going to talk about the blue-collar psychometric testing. So how amazing is that? That we can say, for instance, we've got drivers or so. So how is it now that AI helps us to find a person that is predisposed to be a better driver? And that impacts a whole organization.
Yeah.
So if you employ people that are not, they can't make decisions quickly. You know, so you have a loss at the end of the day. So these recruitment things that are coming in with AI, when we embrace it, once again, it really, really makes life a lot easier.
That's fascinating. It really is. Do you want to pick up from what you were saying?
Yes, maybe I can
yeah,
comment.
please.
So I think what's very important to remember or to think about is that it's here already.
Yeah.
It's not in the future. Artificial intelligence and predictive analytics is here already. And not only in the corporate environment, we're probably more aware of it in the corporate environment, or the white-collar environment, if you want to refer to it that way. But we, for example, developed a psychometric-type pre-screening interview that's AI-powered, that helps identify the suitability of a professional driver, so truck drivers and bus drivers. So it can really be used in a variety of industries, really making a big impact.
Sure. That's fantastic. I mean, I like I say, right at the beginning, this whole world, I didn't even know these kind of things were happening. I thought it was all in LinkedIn. That was about it. But clearly it's bigger than that one. But it's fascinating. I mean, Tembi, from your point of view, at Santam Insurance, how can organizations ensure, however, that these tools are used ethically?
Thanks for the question, Leanne. But firstly, nobody recognized us today. Happy Global Talent Acquisition Day to all my TA people. It's very important. I'll start
A
there.
happy what? Happy?
Global Talent Acquisition Day.
Oh, wow.
They're probably sitting in interviews or screening CVs somewhere, so they don't even
That's
know.
amazing. Okay, good. I'm glad you acknowledged us all there.
But I think maybe from a point of departure, the first thing is around the fact that when we are bringing in these AI tools, we have to have all the stakeholders in the room, right? We have to have diverse stakeholders in the room. Because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where your AI tool is discriminating or is biased. Because the people who are in the room did not teach it the right thing. Remember, it's all about input,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So you need to have a diverse pool of people. I think in an earlier conversation, you asked about persons with disability. You need to have everybody there. And we should all be available to play in the sandpit when this tool is being developed so that I can pick up on things that may discriminate against Tembi, Wendy can do the same, Leanne can do the same, so that when we get to the end, we don't have to find ourselves in a situation where somebody's challenging this. So what am I also saying is that there has to be human intervention in the oversight process. You're not going to be able to decline a candidate and say, AI said so. Why was I unsuccessful? AI said so. You will find yourself at the CCMA very quickly. Fortunately, I'm not the one who goes to CCMA. I will hand it over to my schedulist colleagues. Another thing that is important, who is HR without a policy to guide us, right? So in terms of making sure that it's ethical, make sure that you've got a clear policy. And the process owner needs to understand that policy so that in the instance where you have to explain things, they're able to explain to whoever's asking the question. With your AI tool as well, you need to make sure that you constantly get feedback because the colleagues have already said this is something that's continuously moving. So you need to make sure that you've got constant feedback. There's a feedback loop. I think the benefit of having HR as part of an AI process is that you will get instant feedback. So you can then bring in those type of solutions instantly as well. Having feedback from candidates as well on the experience, they can tell you that I didn't feel like this was for me. Because you find that with assessments, right? There are candidates who will do assessments and they say, but this assessment is not for a person from my area or a person of my color.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that those type of things are removed. We also need to make sure that when we are putting this together, and it's a team that I'm not really happy with because right now they're giving me problems because it's IT audit. Very painful process. But they need to be in the room because they are able to scrutinize issues around data privacy. They are able to scrutinize how we are collecting data, how we are utilizing the data, and who has access to the data. Because you can also find yourself in a problem with regards to those type of things. So have those people in the room, have everybody in the room, make sure that the process owner understands the system, can speak to it, can defend it where the need arises to defend it, and make sure that you keep the confidentiality, especially for the candidates. If you've got everybody in the room, it doesn't mean that everybody needs access to the data, right? You need to be very clear around who's going to use the data, how they're going to use it, and you need to communicate that to your candidates. So when they go into the system, your disclaimer or whatever consent form that they're filling in needs to be clear to say, we are using AI or we are using a particular AI tool. We are going to collect your data. This is what your data is going to be utilized for. And they need to consent. They need to opt into the process. If they don't opt into the process, you cannot utilize the information. So there's a lot of things that you need to have in place, but most importantly, have knowledgeable people, diverse people, have people who can audit it and continuously make sure that you're on the right side of the law because it's also regulated. There's legislation that supports it. And also make sure that everybody who's in the room is able to have oversight and give feedback when the need arises. It is an AI and human intervention.
Yes.
If you think about it, right? We're not handing over everything to AI because at the end of the day, when you go back to the stakeholders, you as Tembi need to be able to defend the process because you're not going to ask the AI tool to defend you. They can assist you with the process, but they're not going to be able to defend your process for you going forward.
Yeah. And that is important, and everybody needs to know that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're the one who's going to be held accountable. You ain't going to get some AI machine that's going to get into trouble for it. Definitely not. Inga Marie, let me come to you again. So when we talk about this predictive analytics, obviously we heard from Mishka how it really does enhance and streamline and make the timing so much better, and it takes out all that unnecessary hard work. But how likely are the candidates, and what have you seen in terms of the success of clients in these specific roles and this actually working specifically well?
So firstly, I think it's important, I love the question around ethics, because it is our responsibility to make sure that it's set up correctly. The AI will only respond, and the predictive analytics will only respond with what it has been trained and how it has been set up. So that's very important, and there's a key responsibility there. But I'd like to highlight 4 aspects relating to the accuracy around placing candidates using artificial intelligence and predictive analytics. So firstly, objective decision making. Typically in traditional hiring, we rely on subjective judgment, which is open to bias.
Yeah.
So predictive analytics offers an objective layer by qualifying the potential of the candidate through data. In such, increasing the fairness of the hire, reducing human bias, and increasing diversity, which is a big problem. There was, for example, a consulting company, big consulting company in the UK, and they came to one of the companies we partnered with in the solution, and they said, we've got a big problem with diversity. And the reality was they kept recruiting the same profile in the same pool. They recruited a specific degree from Harvard and from Cambridge, and they expected a different outcome, but yet they copied and pasted the exact same thing. So the importance of diversity, and you guys will know better than anyone, is critical in making sure we get the right candidates and making sure we get a diverse workforce. Then predictive models. So algorithms...
Can I interrupt you one sec
Sorry,
before you
yes.
get onto that? For a mind like mine, how do you eliminate bias from AI? How do you get fair hiring processes
Yes.
and the elimination of bias?
So how we, for example, applied it in the assessment that we've developed is we focused the predictive model purely on what constructs will contribute to the predictors of performance. So
Okay.
not these type of behaviors or these specific characteristics as such, only characteristics and predictors that contribute to performance. And that means you can randomize all other characteristics,
Okay.
which means that you get the profile of someone that will be successful for the role, but that will potentially be all different profiles otherwise. So it doesn't mean because you studied a certain degree you don't have that skill, or because you've got a different background, or you come from a different setup at home, for example. It basically predicts that you are the profile of someone that is potentially successful for this role because of these characteristics. Everything else is linked to potentially who the human being you are.
Okay, great, interesting. All right, sorry, carry on.
So then predictive models, so algorithms can be trained to predict future performance based on a candidate's past behavior and characteristics. And that profile can then be mapped against a predictive criteria for what would be successful in that specific role, pretty much to what I touched on just now. And that's important for us to define exactly what that role would be. And that's linked to ethics and the responsibility of making sure that these models are set up correctly. Rely on experts to make sure that it's set up correctly, inputs from business, inputs from everyone around the table in collaboration. And making sure these models continuously enhance and improve. So that links to the next point I want to make about real-time adaptation. So predictive analytics systems can continuously learn and adapt based on new data. So continuously enhancing predictions all the time looking forward. So the more data we feed it, the more information we provide, the richer it can become, making sure we provide it with the right data in a constrained and ethical manner. That also means that you can refine predictions over time. This ensures that the prediction becomes more and more accurate as more data is put into the system. There was a topic earlier today around what do we do with all our data, and this is a prime example where we can use data effectively to help enhance the recruitment process and enhance these predictive models. I think what's also important to mention, just back to the predictive model component, is that you have to have clarity what you expect from the role, and that requires a different thinking from us. This traditional of, I need a job description, this is the skills, this is the behavior, this is the profile, we need to think about it a little bit differently as to exactly what would be the key constructs contributing to the success of a role. And then improved retention. So by not only identifying someone based on the predictive model that will fit in perfectly within the company and will fit perfectly into the role to be successful in the role, but also someone that will fit into the culture of the company. You're able to identify people that are more rich and holistically performance as opposed to just a component of the performance, and ultimately reducing turnover.
Amazing. So something that's also getting into my mind now, and I leave it to all of you. I mean, Nomsa, I know I was coming back to you, but if anyone else feels stronger to answer this, please do. You know, surely from what I'm gathering here, the role of HR is completely being redefined in this day and age. Because, you know, those old traditional roles of what an HR actually does, from what you're saying here, I mean, you guys need brand new skills to deal and work with AI. So what is it? What are those skills and the competencies that HR professionals need to have and develop to work effectively? And the word is effectively with these AI tools. Nomsa, are you happy with that one?
I'll take a different spin
And
and
then
I'll hand over to my HC
If anyone
colleagues.
else wants to, please jump in
yes,
there.
coming from an IT point of view. So I think what I've seen is really great and very important, especially with AI, is that handshake between IT and human capital.
Yeah.
So the CHRO and CIO relationship has never been more important than right now. And that handshake. So previously, you would find that human capital would have come with a requirement and said, this is what we need. IT goes in a corner and builds it. However, once you're bringing in tools like AI, it's important, and also because these things are not cheap, right? So gone are the days where IT is setting their budget alone, HC is setting their budget alone, and we hope things are going to happen. What I've seen really work really well in our experience is that close relationship with our HC and our CHRO, and we have what we call the golden handshake. So when we're setting objectives, we are setting objectives together. When we're setting a budget, we are setting the budget together. So that employee experience and what we put out there is aligned from both the CHRO and the CIO component. So I think it does require both IT professionals and HC professionals realizing that over and above my speciality that I went to school for, have experience for, I also now need to be interested in what's happening on the other side, and I must be able to, at the table, contribute meaningfully to the topic at hand. So certainly we're having different conversations with our HC. I mean, I'm discussing product rollouts. They are now product managers. So you've seen the HC, the role of the HC, especially our talent sourcing and other COEs have evolved to the role of a product manager when it comes to AI. So they are the ones that will define what we need to build. They will refine what we need to focus on. They will be in charge of making sure that what gets rolled out by IT meets the requirements, is on time, that we prioritize the correct projects. So our prioritization comes from human capital. I think in the past, human capital colleagues in the room wouldn't have been involved in prioritizing a product backlog, you know. But nowadays, if you stop any of our HC colleagues and our COEs, they'll tell you, oh, I'm attending a sprint planning session to groom a product that IT is building for me. And that's the shift we've seen. And it's been so beautiful to watch, having been in the space for so many years, to see how we've evolved and how we partner with the HC professionals and how their role has evolved to technology product managers as well, and that's really useful.
Amazing. Do you want to add in?
So the other thing that I've seen from a human capital perspective, like when you're saying, we now speak the language, right? So we now on a common platform. I think the one thing as well is that in bringing in AI, it's allowed the HC colleagues to move away from the operational stuff and become a bit more strategic. I'm going to share with you about somebody, and I believe it's a girl in our team. The lady's name is Seb, okay? It's the Santam employee bot. Seb is the girl she thinks she is. Seb is always available 24/7. We had our brand launch on Monday, but we also received new learners on Monday. Everybody was at the festivities. Seb was working, and Seb was able to interact with everybody in every province at the same time. Seb gave a consistent response to every question that was asked. Seb gave you a review of your SUF, your medical aid, all of those things. So Seb was assisting us to continue with a certain element of the job which could look mundane, so that we could do not just partying, but we could also deal with the strategic things, right? HC is also coming to the party in terms of putting the spec of these tools together, assisting with the AI modeling. Who would have thought? But we also realize that this is the way we're going. We're bringing into the organization these digital natives. You know, all these kids are on devices. They actually don't want to speak to somebody. They want to speak to Seb, because Seb would also not argue with them and call them out. But that's where we come in. Hence, I said that the human intervention in terms of oversight is still important. But we have come to the party in terms of understanding the jargon, upskilling ourselves from I guess, a digital perspective, understanding the digital landscape, and of course, the continuous learning. The CIO business cannot bring in anything without us understanding, because ultimately we have to take it into business. We have to be able to speak to it. So when they bring the strategy and they bring it together with the human capital strategy, we need to be able to show business how it comes together and be able again to go there and make sure that it is something that works for everybody. So we've really, really come to the party. I think even if I see some of the colleagues, they're attending all these digital courses, things we never would have thought of. We usually go for the soft skills, you know, how to manage emotional intelligence, you know, all of those nice softer things, but we're going hard in terms of making sure that AI can support our narrative. So the augmentation is important.
So, Mishka, let me come to you, and please feel free to comment on anything you've heard here. But just to throw in another idea, which I'm thinking in terms of is a little bit further on the ethical considerations, because we touched on the ethical considerations. But how is it that HR leaders actually ensure transparency in this whole process and accountability? Like we said, you're in trouble, not AI, but how do you ensure this? Because it's quite difficult in this day and age, you know, this process through transparency and using AI and tools. But please add in anything you'd like to from what you've heard the panelists say.
I think we've been very disciplined from an HR point of view, that we know that based on the LRA, we actually also create company policies. So you stick to your policies, and everything should be written in the policy. So that is a level of ethical behavior. So how do I determine that our organization will do the same thing everywhere? So ethics must be written into your policies and procedures, which reverts back to the law. You see, so you can't actually go step out of that. Now, South Africa, I'm not 100% sure, I don't want to open up about that, but the legal side, I know that they're busy with the South African policy on AI, so we would have to, any organization at this point has the right, and I would always suggest you do it, that you write up your own policy in terms of how far are we going to go? Yeah. What is the POPI Act saying about, you know, keeping things confidential? So every company should have that sense already. Doesn't matter how big or small you are. If you're using AI, we have to say, how far are we going to go? How far are we going to allow employees to go? How far are we going to allow the HR department has to have boundaries in terms of where you're going. Otherwise, you're going to get into trouble. That's just the way it is. Yeah. So fortunately, like I said, as a country, with all the procedures that we have to take and we're forced to take with the commissioner overlooking it and et cetera, the CCMA, I think we've been taught this is the way we should do it. There should be a policy on everything, and this is the way everybody acts so that we have fairness, and therefore we should actually be quite far in setting up policies in the correct way in terms of AI as well, and the use of AI.
Yeah, that almost needs to be done in the utmost urgency manner.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, from what I'm hearing here, it's in action. Like, I don't know who was it that said it's not coming, it's here, it's happening. It's what we're doing and practicing now. I've been so selfish with questions. I didn't know I was such an expert in HR. Man, I didn't realize I was so interested in this topic and AI and all of that. Is anyone else interested? Does anyone have a question in the room? Because there you go, waving his hand again. My reliable question asker over there. We've literally got about a minute and a half left, and and another question here. And another one there. Okay, I've got 3 questions already. Can we ask them very quickly, and then we're going to get wrapping comments from our panelists here. Okay, here comes the mic. And if you've got another mic in the room, please will you bring it? There's a question right in the front here, and another one at this table over here. There we go, right in the front over here.
Well, I don't know whether this would be a questions or a couple of comments. Normally, when people speak of AI, especially in the context of HR, one metrics that come out too clear is speed. It helps us to process the CVs. For me, I simply say that's where the problem begins. Because using AI for its speediness, it would be the narrow use of it. My question now becomes, if the AI sift for you, and you take the ones that you like, or as per AI, what do you do with those that are rejected? Who looks at them? Why am I saying like that? Probably because speed is your metrics. Obviously, it's not in your interest to look at the rejected ones. So now, the rejected ones, what if you're throwing away the intelligence that you require? Because you may have had the job spec as you saw it, but the industry can tell you that this is not how we do things anymore. So basically discarding the rejected CVs is to your detriment. That is either comment or question, but that's my comment.
Okay.
So additionally, AI, there's this narrative that AI tends to create the sameness. In other words, if your HR manager has a psychology, the manager is bound to recruit people from psychology because this is how the job spec would have written, this is how the AI would have shortlisted. So basically, those are the things that I'm trying to highlight to say. Final arbiter in our recruitment process, I would say we are doing ourselves a disservice.
Okay, let's leave it there. I'm going to ask not to comment now, but keep it in your head, because I know everyone wants to comment on that one. There was a question, I don't know where the mic is. Oh, you got it now, great. Okay, over here, and then the last one at that table.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm not an HR practitioner or HR person. That's why I'm going to probably ask this question. And it's not AI related, but Inga Marie said something that really triggered a thought that I've really been struggling with. And it's about this hiring for cultural fit. Because I'm also very big on looking at behavior and your ability to fit into the space, because we can groom and grow some of the skills that we need to be in place. However, what I've found challenging is hiring for the future. And what I'm talking about is when I walk into a space and we realize that the culture is actually the biggest issue we're facing, and we don't have a skills or capabilities issue, we have a culture issue, and that's why we're not able to meet our goals or our targets. So now I need to hire someone who's going to fit the culture that I want us to get to, but not the culture that we're currently in. But how do we then go about enabling this person to be able to survive the current culture? Because now I'm saying, come into the choppy waters with me, right? So I now need to assess if you're going to be able to come into the choppy water with me, and you've got the grit to persevere and go through all of this with me. You have the discipline to jump in and do all of this. Now, how do I assess that in a person? But also maybe, more importantly, how do we enable that person to change that? Because they're walking into the old culture and everyone else is obviously resisting and wanting to stay in that comfortable space. But we want something that's going to take maybe 5 years to change, and this person has to journey with us. Thank you.
Yeah, important. I love that. You're going to add that in, no doubt. But that was very much so what I was saying right in the beginning, in the opening of the conference, is how people are able to adapt, but companies are slower to adapt than people. So that company culture wants to stay there. It doesn't want to change. And, the staff that come in want to change it, but how do you do that? And the hiring criteria, that's a big thing. One final comment, I think. There we go, last one.
Hello. From my side, I just want to ask, obviously, as we're looking towards the future of HR and integrating AI and automation into our processes is becoming increasingly important, of course. So now, for South African companies hiring or who has employed foreign nationals, managing immigration compliance is a critical aspect of HR, obviously. So I just want to ask if you can please share how your organizations are leveraging AI to ensure that the employees' visas or permits are valid at all times. I think specifically on how to validate or rather verify that those documents are compliant. And then also how to monitor as well the expiry dates of these documents to ensure that they are renewed on time. And then I think the reason for that question is because as an immigration advisor, we get quite a lot of number of companies and individuals seeking agent assistance with renewal at the last minute. And then also, once the documents have expired, they are no longer obviously compliant to work for a South African company. And then with that, it also brings some sort of non-compliance for the company, because sometimes the Department of Home Affairs and the Department of Labor, they do like unannounced audit visits to company just to make sure that they're compliant with their foreign employees. So, and on that note, when they come through and find out that you're not compliant, they don't take ignorance as an excuse. So that's the question that I want to find out as to how do you go about with that, and yeah.
Okay, great, great. Nice angle on that one. I'm going to work one by one down the room. Do you want to start?
If I can maybe comment on the culture
Please
question.
make a comment and also sort of wrap
Okay,
on your
I'll
side.
be quick. So culture is such a complex construct, but it is something that you can assess for, and you're able to assess if the person is resilient enough to survive in a certain culture. You'll be able to assess for that. The reality is, though, if you expect one individual to come in a specific culture and you're expecting that person to change the culture, that's impossible as an individual, even if you provide the best support. So you need, someone referred to it earlier and I get goosebumps thinking about it, a change leader. You need change leaders to change the culture and then bring more individuals in. So not just one. Focus on specifically and deliberately bringing agents in and looking at change, enabling them through change leaders to embrace this culture and then slowly transform. Because transforming culture is a journey. It takes years. So I think you'd set someone up to fail if you bring in as an individual and hoping for them to survive. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Ingmarie. Would you like to, and if anyone wants to also tackle the issue of immigrants and policies on there, will you touch on that as well? I'm going to leave you to the end, if that's fine.
Okay.
Let's carry on there. You're also going to, good. So as many as you can in your answer.
So I'm probably looking at the one around the talent acquisition process and how we filter and AI and that type of thing.
Okay.
Either way, if I was screening, for example, for those who work in retail or in an RPO, the human element is also going to make mistakes. You are also going to miss somebody. What we are saying with AI is that AI, at least we know that you put in keywords from your job spec and you directly link them to what you are looking for. So we are actually trying to remove more of the humanly mistakes that are made from AI. You will always have that, you need to choose one person or two people for the job. So yes, somebody will stay behind. You know, that's a given. And then those people stay in a pool. You don't disregard them. They stay in a pool. When the opportunity comes up, again, with the advancement of AI, now you don't probably have to advertise all your roles. You go into a system, you start creating Boolean strings, and then you can, again, pick up in terms of the keywords and then be able to shortlist those people. So in terms of AI being like a reserve tank, I don't think so, because then the world is going to beat us. AI is moving. We need to move with it and keep track.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think I just want to add on, so I was also going to answer the same comment. So we do need to see it as an accelerator, guys. I don't think any of us want to stay being paper pushers, you know, wasting time. If the tools and technologies are advancing in a way that you can take out those mundane tasks, we must use it. It's definitely an accelerator. And you spoke earlier around how, which I really like, how AI tools will actually help you to assess for what's required, the skills that are inherent and required for the job. And without everything else. As human beings, we will interview Nomsa for the skills required, but our human bias is also looking at, does she sound like me? Oh, she looks like she's not going to gel with the team. So already as humans, we are quite judgmental and sifting out talent. So I think having the AI that's built correctly with the correct predictive modeling, but also assessing according to the job, not according to my background, not according to my certificate that I say or my degree from UNISA, but according to these are the requirements. And your requirements in the talented person might not be the person that's coming with the degree, right? And that's where the human bias is actually removed. So I'd like to say to my colleague over there, the gentleman, that actually AI is your accelerator, not your reserve tank. It's going to save quite a lot of things. Very important what you've mentioned, that we've already gazetted, and I was so impressed when I saw that government gazette around AI. Because last year I attended a conference in the Netherlands, and I was the only SA or African company, and we are actually quite advanced in how we are thinking about it, because we have such strict labor laws, because we have POPI, because we have the CCMA that we all fear. We are so advanced in how we are thinking about it. I mean, we are already discussing things like, you know, when you stand at the CCMA, as you've mentioned, you can't just say AI made me do it. So I think we already as a country, and we like to think as South Africa that we're quite far behind. In all the roundtables I've been in, we're thinking about the right things. We're starting to gazette. Not a lot of countries have policies around this, and you need to see it like cloud, right? So don't be restricted and say, I can't until we have a policy. when cloud was coming many years ago, we had to catch up with it. It was moving. The same thing with AI. Let's catch up, but let's not ignore our HR laws. Those are going to protect us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mishka, I'm going to leave the final words with you.
Okay, so in terms of what the lady was talking about, foreign nationals and expiry dates, very important, especially for us in our company, BDCS. If you only employ 10 people, easy. You can still remember all their salaries as well, I know. But when you start to employ thousands of people, so for us, handling other companies, the employee, we handle that side. There is absolutely no way that human beings can actually keep track of when is the contract expiring, when do the license expire, when do those things happen. AI is phenomenal. That's how we work, because we get a flag to say, listen, this is now, you've got 90 days. You've got to warn this person, they've got to go and renew, or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's all worked into AI. So that comes up, okay, this brings down my thousands of employees to only these that I need to deal with. So it really is something, and my last comment will be to the gentleman that talked about time. I don't think we should ever leave the human factor out. I do not think in anything that we've said we feel that AI is the ultimate or the decision maker. Definitely the human is still in there and it makes that decision. But I think it's just such a phenomenal tool to get us to do it more effectively.
I love it. I've loved this panel. I really have. I found it so informative. Ladies, thank you. Thank you so, so much. Inga Marie, Tembi, Nomsa, as well as Mishka. Please, let's give them one final round of applause.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you, ladies.
At BDCS, we understand the importance of selecting the best suitable candidates for the position.
Our HR team ensures that all IR matters are dealt with timeously, which includes consultations, disciplinary inquiries, or any CCMA representation needed for external disputes. With the deeming provision in mind, our goal is always to protect our client from any external referrals.
BDCS, powering your workforce, driving your success.
Sure. One thing I'm realizing is AI is scary. It is scary, but it's vital. And, you know, it can work if it's used in the right way. It's quite fascinating to see how these things work. It really does. And it's also taking that human bias and the subjectiveness out of it. So, yeah, it's interesting. But I'm sure as we keep moving, we're going to find more and more about this. And this brings us to our next keynote address. And I haven't had the pleasure of meeting our next keynote speaker from Blue Label Telecoms. And I'm hoping I pronounce your name right. Is it Aine? Is it Aine? Anya. I would never have gotten that, ever. Not even, I'm like looking at this, I'm thinking, how am I going to say this? Well, there we are. So Anya Armstrong is coming up to give us our keynote address before we head into our next panel discussion. And we'll do a quick one on culture as an enabler on high performance. But please, welcome on stage, Anya Armstrong.
As Blue We Belong captures what we stand for as an organization. An environment where everyone belongs and can bring their best self to work. It's about leaders and employees co-creating a work environment that is both diverse and inclusive. Because our strength is in our ability to listen to different ideas and challenge our biases. Being open to possibilities. We embrace curiosity, adaptive thinking, commitment, and authenticity. This is how we show up. Our inclusivity drives results with people. Our people are the heart of our family. Together as Blue we belong.
Cool. Hello everybody. My name's Anya Armstrong. You did it very well. I'm a born and bred Josie girl. But like most people in this room and in this country, there's a bit of diversity of culture, and hence my name, it's Irish. My historical heritage is Irish. It's an honor and it's a privilege to be able to say a few words to you guys today. I know it's right before lunch and everyone's starving, so it won't be long. This the topic of culture is one that's very close to my heart. I hope the next few minutes my colleagues and I can spark a bit of an interesting debate with you guys. I also wanted to thank the organizers of this event. I can only imagine how much it takes to prepare something like this and to make it flow so seamlessly, so thank you. So the topic today, culture as an enabler of high performance. I think the question here is culture the secret sauce for performance? Let's start with the basics. What do we mean by culture? I think culture, very simply, it's what makes us us. It's our values, it's our habits, it's the way we work together. It's kind of the vibe or the feeling that you get when you come to work in the morning, or even when you hop on a Zoom or a Teams call. It's more of a feeling than a knowing. I think when we apply it to performance, it's not, yes, it's hitting our targets, but it's not just that. It's going above and beyond. It's crushing our targets. So what is it about culture that takes us from doing our job to putting in that extra effort? Come home. And I mean, my nerves were going mad. So that went down a level. I felt a bit of warmth. He then said, okay, well, this is where you're going to park from now on. Then I walked into reception, and the receptionist, who had actually met a few times from the whole interview process, said, hi, we've been waiting for you. Then I walked into the HR team, and everybody was there to welcome me. And I was actually quite blown away. But I'm a bit of an untrusting soul sometimes. And I was like, okay, yes, this is day one. I wonder what the truth is, you know? Then I started meeting people, I started engaging with people, I started observing, and I was very surprised that it wasn't me getting special treatment, this just was the treatment. This is how we treat each other. And I think that there is the difference. Now, I think the difference here is, yes, I know that this job is hard. I know I've got work to do. No one's pretending that there's not problems to fix and there's directions to go in. But the difference is I feel wanted, I feel welcome, I feel at home. Now I actually want to come to work. I want to be part of this team. And that's the difference. It's that excitement. You know, it's not just a job. I actually want to be part of this. And I think that's the difference between culture and a job, you know, or just coming into an environment and feeling like you're part of an environment. True to my heritage, there's an old Irish proverb that says, a good laugh and a long sleep, they're the best cures for pretty much everything. And I can relate that to culture, because just as laughter and sleep are vital for your mental or your physical health, an inclusive and a positive culture is absolutely vital for an organization's success. It's the fuel that keeps us going. It's the stuff that helps us get through those tough times, those ones that you don't know you're going to come out the other end. It's that drives us through that. I also think Ubuntu, bringing it home to us a bit more. I am because we are. As we know, this all boils down to community. It's about shared success. When we embrace Ubuntu, we're saying that we're in this together. We're not just working for ourselves, we're working for each other. And that's what makes a team or a business unstoppable. It's when we start to unite and we share common values, a common vision, never mind that we're all completely different to each other. I've learned a few difficult lessons in my life. I think that the one that relates to culture is, you know, in the beginning you can be driven by, okay, but what's best for me? What's best for my career? What decisions can I make that will be good for me? You become self-absorbed, you become isolated from your peers, and suddenly all that you can achieve is what you have with your 2 hands and your 24 hours a day. That's where it ends. There's no more. When your purpose and your values lie in the greater good, so I take myself out of the picture, I make my decisions based on what's best for my team, what's best for my business, what's best for tomorrow, suddenly the magic begins. you know? It's a common direction. We start to listen to each other, we start to innovate, we start to take each other seriously, we start to try new things, we start to understand each other, we break down biases. I think that's when things become really possible. That's that discretionary effort between a job and huge success. And I can definitely say that the whole is far greater than the sum of its parts. So yes, culture is the secret sauce. But let's have a look at the ingredients we use. How do we heat it? How do we cook it? How do we taste it? How do we experience it? At Blue Label, we've tried to match the company's direction to its values. And I think that that's step one. So yes, it's a telecoms business, but it's not just that. We take calculated risks. We're innovative. We explore. We enjoy. We welcome ideas. And I think that's how it's taken from the business from its inception to where it is today. So let's look at a few of these values. I'm not going to go into all of them in detail. I can see people are hungry. The first one is accountability. So if you look at this as a value and creating a culture, accountability says, okay, I'm going to own what's mine, but I'm also quite willing to own what's ours. It doesn't actually matter what created the problem and who created the problem and who we can point our fingers at and who we can blame, which is what we spend 90% of our time doing, is how can I protect myself or how can I save my own reputation? None of that matters. What matters is that I'm actually accountable for what we do now. How am I going to react to this? How am I going to fix it? How am I going to take it forward in a positive way? Then there's obviously collaboration. If we work together, we're going to get a better answer. If we embrace diversity, we're going to get better innovation and ideas. I think it goes without saying that more heads are better, and especially if they're very different heads. If you get very different cultures, races, religions, everything in one room, I mean, mathematically, I think it's proven that the answer will probably be better. Inclusion. This is a big one. Every single voice matters. In South Africa, we've got the incredible diversity, and we're so fortunate to have this in our country. Now, when we bring it back to the workplace, it's not just about all of that, it's also about equality. So we've got race, we've got gender, we've got belief, but we've also got hierarchy. One thing that I have noticed at Blue Label is the door is always open. So from your CEO to your learner, we don't know where the idea is going to come from. We don't know where the next great thing is going to come from. And the only way we're going to be able to capitalize on that is if we start listening, if we start including, if we start allowing people to share. I'll never forget a story I read. It was British Airways, and one of the cabin crew came up with an idea, and I'm not technical, so I probably won't explain this properly, but to descale the water pipes. And, you know, she saved a few pounds on her flight. But when they put it out around the globe into all the flight pods, it came to more than 14 million rand saving. You know, so the ideas, they can come from anywhere. They don't have to be rolled from the top down. We can get them from anybody, and the little things are what make a business great. And I think somebody this morning said it's all about consistency, and that's what it is. It's incremental changes day in and day out. Okay, then I think the other one I just wanted to mention was innovation. So we're always looking for new ways to do things. But innovation isn't just about, wow, this is an idea, let's do it. Innovation is about, okay, we're going to get 9 bad ones before we're going to get a good one. So it's about grit, it's about tenacity, it's about coming to work and showing up every day. And culture provides that. If I want to show up to work every day, then I will. If I don't want to, I'll plod in and I'll do my job and I'll go home, and I'm not really interested in the future. And I think that culture enables all of that to happen. So what I'm trying to say is that your values obviously need to align to your business goals. If you don't have that, then you've got a very disconnected workforce as opposed to the promises that you're making to your shareholders. And, you know, something I've learned is over, a few organizations and a few lessons is, yes, we can plaster our values all over the place. We can talk about them on LinkedIn every single day. We can go on about them at year-end functions. But are we living them? How do we make them actually come alive? And there's that peer management and recognition. The second one, probably the most important, walk the talk. If your leaders at the top are not practicing the values and the culture that we're telling everyone we have, we're dead in the water. I think there's a lot of, from reading in the papers or on the news or in the radio, short-term decision-making versus long-term sustainability. It's very easy for all of us, we're all human, to say, oh God, okay, I'm not meeting my targets, I'm going to have to do X, Y, and Z, but it's very against my culture. It's not something that my values are subscribing to. What am I going to do? Am I going to save myself and get my bonus? Or am I going to do the right thing and drive tomorrow's success? And this is where it gets hard. It's not about the days that we're all doing well and we're flying. It's about those difficult times when things are hard. How do we behave in those moments? And I think that's what builds the trust. And that's what then ultimately builds an unstoppable culture. Then, again, incorporate your values and your culture into everything you do. So you've got to have your attraction process, your recruitment process, your performance management, your recognition, your reward, everything needs to be woven into the fabric of all of your human processes, because it needs to be genuine. You can't have some things, okay, this one in culture is important because it's not that important, but this one, it's about numbers. It's got to be woven into everything. It's got to be real, it's got to be true, it's got to be believed. And a culture cannot possibly come alive if the trust doesn't exist. And trust comes from consistency. If I know what to expect every day, I'll start to trust the process. Then I'll become part of the process. And then I'll become an advocate for the process. And then, of course, celebrating successes. So if I'm going to tell you that this is what I want, I've got to say thank you when you give it to me. I've got to reinforce it by rewarding and recognizing the right behaviors, the right value, the right culture. It's not just about the numbers. We've got to reinforce the behaviors that are going to skyrocket us tomorrow. And finally, listen. It's something we don't always do very well. We're waiting to speak. And not just listen, but also act on what you're hearing. So we all, as HR professionals, know how many surveys we like to do. And we're listening, but then we forget to actually do something about it. We ask a million questions, and then maybe we'll fix one of them. The next year, I'm not going to bother to answer this thing because no one's doing anything about it. Or, I'm not actually going to tell the truth this year because I'm not very trusting of this process anymore. So it's about actually hearing and actually doing something about it. It's far better not to ask questions if you don't intend on acting. Just keep quiet. But if you want to know the answer, you've got to be prepared to hear the answer and to do something about the answer. And I think that's where this important point comes in, which is feedback. Feedback is a difficult subject. It's hard to take it and it's hard to give it. If we are denying feedback, I know people have given me feedback and I'm like, oh, no, that's not true. It's actually because it is true that I don't want to look at it. I was just speaking to my colleagues just now. You can say 5 things to me, 5 fairly negative feedback things to me, and one of them will hit my heart. And I know now that's the one that's true. That's the one I've got to work on, And you're robbing yourself of an opportunity to develop if you're not able to maturely accept that feedback. And probably just as hard as taking it is giving it. It's so hard to have that difficult conversation. It's so hard to say, you can do this a bit differently, or how about that? Because you don't want conflict. You don't want to create that conflict with you and your colleagues or someone you don't even know. But now you're robbing them of the opportunity. You're robbing the business of the opportunity to grow. So I think that being able to give and receive feedback is is an enormous enabler of culture and ultimately of high performance. But what's our role as HR in all of this? I mean, we're expecting everybody to do it. We're writing processes, we're writing policies, but how can we drive it? I like to think of us as we're the guardians of culture. You know, we don't own it, we shape it. We're the guardians. We're the ones who are watching and learning and listening and adjusting and changing it. And that's really our role. And there's loads of ways to do this. Just very briefly, I think just to mention a few is, you know, the onboarding. Have onboarding with a little bit of a twist. Immerse our people in our culture from day one. Tell them who you are. A lot of the talent that we attract them, what ours are. And then you've got this pot of many different cultures and confusion. And now we're all not aligned and we're not swimming in the same direction. So it's important to actually say this is who we are as a business. And give people the opportunity to choose, but also give people the safety to know that, you know, this is acceptable and this isn't. This is what we reward and this is what we don't reward. It's how we treat each other. It's the boundaries we set. It's how we recognize each other. It's critical. Obviously, ongoing learning, like I've said before, repetition, teaching people, what are our values, how do we drive performance? Listening, I think I mentioned that before. We've got to listen. If we don't listen as HR professionals and if we don't direct the listening as the business, we're never going to get anywhere. There's so many powerful ideas in all of our people. Are they confident enough to speak to us? And are we willing enough to listen to them? Then this one I love is shared stories. I mean, I remember my mom used to tell me hundreds of these Irish stories of the antics they used to get up to. And it wasn't just stories. It wasn't us just laughing over a Guinness. It was not that. What it really was is passing down a heritage, passing down a culture. So if we share our stories, we share our successes, we share what each other's done. Somebody's done something beautiful. Somebody's done something for the greater good. We write about it, we tell people about it, and this then infiltrates the fiber of who we are, and it drives that culture further and further. So storytelling, sharing successes is absolutely key. I think, lastly, what I would think is, if you get your culture right, the high performance, it'll take care of itself. Get your people feeling right. Get your people feeling welcome. Get them feeling valued. Get them aligned. The rest will take care of itself. It is, in fact, the enabler. Just to touch on, and I don't want to go into it too much on the world of tech and AI. And we all petrified, like, oh my God, it's going to take jobs away. How am I going to deal with this? It's a whole new complexity. It's there, I mean, it fosters innovation, it fosters culture, it enhances decision-making. But it's not what will determine the success of anything, it's the culture. It's the culture that will determine how we integrate the AI and the tech. You know, how do we adopt it? It will determine that. It can only work if we buy into it, if we feel safe, if we don't feel threatened, and it's the culture that will provide that psychological safety for us to actually embrace it and reach new limits within it. And I think that it's incredibly important that AI is a tool that supports our culture. It's not something that replaces it. So we use it to support who we are and what we do, maybe remove administrative tasks, help decision-making. But it doesn't replace us as humans. It doesn't replace our culture, our values, our beliefs. We bring it in. It doesn't come and take us out. In summary, I think in closing, it's obvious culture is not a nice to have, it's a must to have. There's many organizations, there's a lot of proof that I think we've all heard that culture is probably the most important enabler for a high-performing organization. It's what aligns us, it's what drives us, it helps us achieve great things together. If we nurture our culture, like we nurture our beliefs, our values, our religion, our children, if we nurture it and we take care of it like that, and we allow each other to have failures, we allow each other to fall. We say, it's okay, this is how we learned how to walk. None of us would be standing upright if we didn't fall 100 times. If we allow that kind of culture, it's okay to take calculated risks, to take some chance, to fail. It's okay. Let's just stand up and get at it again. If we allow this kind of thinking and this kind of embracive, innovative, diverse culture, I think success is probably inevitable. I think I'll leave it with that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Anya. Have a seat. Let me call up. We'll have a very quick discussion because I do know that lunch is it's waiting for us. Yes. But I'm going to call up Kopano Maruping as well for this one, Head of Communications and Employee Engagement at Blue Label Telecoms, as well as Lizelle Revel, I think. She's a talent manager at Blue Label Telecoms. So, ladies, thank you. Thank you very, very much for being with us today. Are you going to sit? Have a seat anywhere? I'll sit over here. There you go. Anya, thank you so much for what you spoke about the whole culture and when you go into a company. I was jealous when I listened to the reception you received on your arrival there, because a lot of people don't. You don't get that. You don't get that culture at companies anymore. It's a horrible thing. Kopano, let me come to you now and just ask you, what would you say is the link between inclusivity and organizational performance, I should say?
Let's start first with what inclusivity is.
Yeah.
Inclusivity is how people feel coming into work. Anya touched on that in her speech. It's people knowing how they fit into the organization and what their contribution is to the success of the organization. It's how people relate in the workplace. And if people do not feel a part or a sense of belonging in the workplace, it's much difficult for them to perform at their peak. So if you feel included, you are more likely to perform at your utmost. Yeah. If you feel you're valued, if you feel a sense of belonging, if you feel that your ideas matter, and genuinely so, you're more likely to perform at your highest.
Yeah, indeed, and that's obviously a fact. I suppose it doesn't matter what industry you're in, that helps your performance. But Lizelle, for you, what does inclusivity actually do to contribute to increased creativity and innovation within different teams in the organization?
Let me first say, Leanne, it's very different sitting up here.
Yeah.
The sound
it is,
different,
isn't it?
so just adjusting to that. Okay, so what does inclusivity do to actually improve creativity and innovation? So as Kopano said, I think it starts with the foundations, and there are a few that needs to be in place. And it is an organization creating an environment where people do feel valued and respected, like you said, Kopano. So that's empathy. And empathy is such a core fundamental in building inclusion. Particularly because we're moving into a space of AI and robotics where the emotions is removed, we need to become more invested in empathy. I think where inclusion is a part of the organization's culture, people feel they can show up as the best versions of themselves. And only when you show up as the best version of yourself can you then perform at an optimum level, as Kopano said. I think it starts with that. And when people feel like they are able to perform at peak levels, then we can ascend and add on a layer of creativity and innovation.
Yeah, cultural diversity, I suppose, is a very important one. And I know we had a question a bit earlier in the other panel where we were talking about bringing that culture, bringing a new culture in, whereas the people in the old culture are fighting to keep that culture. and how do you do that? And it's quite a different one, because you may come in as a high performer, and maybe Anya, I can bring you into it this way, but you may be this high performer and you're doing exceptionally well in your last company or in your last job or as an individual, but then you walk into another company who has a completely different culture and you struggle. You struggle there because nobody wants to change. How do you balance that?
That's it's an impossible question to ask.
It is.
I'll let you know.
It is.
No, I think that, basically, what does everybody want is They want to be able to be themselves wherever they go.
Yeah.
We don't want to wake up and feed our kids and be with our family and then walk through the work door and have to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of it, is can I be the best me I can be, the most authentic version and the most successful version of me, and will the culture allow that? I think, HR is full of PowerPoint presentations and proof, and we're always now trying to find an ROI so that finance will buy into us. But it's actually, if you just think about us as humans, we're all human.
Yeah.
We all actually want the same thing. We all want psychological safety. We want to learn, we want to grow, we want to develop, we want to be liked, we want to be included, and we want to be ourselves. So culture doesn't mean everyone who comes to work here must subscribe to this. It means everyone who works here, yes, we have to have a shared vision and values, but you're allowed to be you, and I'm allowed to be me, and I'm going to respect who you are and our differences. And I think that if we approach it from a much more human, basic level, without all of the fluff and the research, then you can start reaching people, because there's certain human things that all of us require, that we're actually all the same. Although we come from different worlds, different beliefs, different backgrounds, everything's different, but there's some common elements that we all need. And if we focus on that, then we get the foundation built.
Yeah, I mean that's the right way to look at it, but there are certain company cultures that just don't. They don't see it that way, and it's a very difficult conversation to have. But I mean, if I can, in terms of Kopano, looking at some of those common challenges that organizations face when trying to build this inclusive culture, what are they, and how do we address those challenges?
I think a lot of the speakers did touch on this, and it goes across. I mean, even the previous speaker that we had, they talked about biases.
Yeah.
Unconscious biases, those are things that we come with as a people from where we are from, our backgrounds, and those really are a challenge in how you perceive people and the stereotypes that you put on people. And automatically, we do that without even putting a second thought into it. So that's one of the challenges that also guides how inclusive a culture can be, or an organization can be. You're trying to build this organization that's high-paced, where everybody feels a sense of belonging, but you still have pockets of leaders that are like, but this is, in my opinion, my people do this, or this type of person, because of their background, my assumption is this. So how do we deal with those unconscious biases? That is a big challenge, because it's an internal thing. How do I deal with a bias?
Yeah.
What is bias? Let's start first. How we need to start educating people, our employees, on biases, because we can't say to them, deal with your unconscious bias. What does that mean? What is an unconscious bias? Because it's something I don't even put a thought to.
Yeah.
So we need to educate people on what are the biases and how, and provide the support in dealing with those biases, training, forums, workshops, things like that. So for me, that big challenge is first the biases.
Yeah, and being called out for it.
And being called out for it, definitely.
And really, it's so important. I mean, there was, Anya, you said something about, you can be given a whole bunch of negative feedback or criticism, but there's that one that'll really get to you because you know it true of yourself. There's a saying, and I don't know how it goes, and I'm going to misquote it, but it was, when you see something that you dislike in someone else, it's actually a reflection of you and them. And I feel that sometimes, and I hate that, but I want someone to call it out so that I can fix it up. And it's important. People need, and I think if a leader cannot accept that kind of stuff, they don't deserve to be a leader. And that's the reality.
Yeah.
Lizelle, very quickly, I know we've got to wrap this up, but let me just ask you, in terms of leaders, how do they play a pivotal role in promoting this sustainability and inclusivity within their teams?
So, Leanne, leaders set the tone for culture in organization. And actually, I want to just bring a personal story that just happened a couple of minutes ago, because I feel like inclusion and culture is not a once-off thing. We don't talk about once a year. It has to be lived.
Every day.
It has to be a way of being.
Yeah.
And I think Anya reminded us of that earlier when we were sitting in the room there, and we were like, going through our notes, and we were stressed and a little bit anxious about coming up here. And she just said to us, it's okay to be human, you know, it's okay to make mistakes. And that kind of settled our, our anxiety about being here. And that's what leaders are supposed to do, is show up in every single circumstance and make people feel comfortable and make people feel included.
Yeah, and especially in a country like this.
Right.
And I know every one of you have emphasized it. It is so important to have that culture embedded within every single one of us, because not everybody has that same privilege. There are so many people out there that fight. They battle to get through every single day, from the moment they wake up until the moment they sleep. And there are just leaders that don't care. You know, and that's a very, very big problem. Ladies, that was amazing, and I know it was short, but I just think it's such an important conversation. But Anya, I think you gave us a great talking point to begin with, and I'm going to leave this panel here for now, because I do know that we need to take a break for lunch, and this lunch, if I can ask you to keep it to 45 minutes, that would be really great for us to help us catch up on a bit of time, because we are about 20 minutes now running behind schedule. So if you can, please, 45 minutes, watch your clock. If I can get you all back here at about 2:30 or just before 2:30, so we can start at 2:30. All you need to do is that lunch is actually in the restaurant on the left. So go past the registration desk and you'll be directed to go there. And also remember to visit the showcase area if you can. But please, let's give my panelists a big final round of applause. Anya Kopano and Lizelle. This one brought to you by Blue Telecom. So thank you very, very much for them. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much, Em.
Another day for you, baby. Quit my Casanova ways for you, baby. The only time that you say that you hate me is when I take the last slice of pastry. Now I'm on the run. Loving you till kingdom come, but you drive me crazy. Send someone, still my billboard, baby. Man, I mean like by me. I just wanna be there when you need me. Baby, now your matter, I did sing all day, yeah. Talk to me nice. Say now my love you didn't need for your life. Yeah, our love no be lie. See every day together, yeah, day and night. Yeah, if I leave, you go by. Yeah, if you leave, I go stroking your body, baby. Loving your body, baby. As you're whining your body, baby. So crazy. Loving your body, baby. Girl, you want it to me. I just wanna let you know. Hope every day
You don't need no other body. You don't need no other body. Only you feel on my body. Only you feel on my body. Smoke. Go set my bed. Take my bed right from they are talking shit. What them no get enemy. See you for what's in it. I put my eyes, test shot, my eyes, that's good. I cry, I'm sure, but my good love. Leave me, I don't pray, Mohammed, I don't pray. Come on, man, I can't stand for one place. Go stay, my bed, come on, teach me. Only you can feel my best. Give me vitamins, we're gonna take these pains away. So body they draw me like a bono. Body they rise in my no. I say color your crocodile, no go place locodo. Jelly they bossy my pololo. Can make a salute your commando. Jelly if you balance Diego, I give you paper. No go do me Diego, my Maradona. Jelly if I lap your sueto, I'm a farisa. Jelly your back, keep it canedo. And I can follow your cresco. Today, dame creso. Pay for your waist, and I could pay for your lace. A day for your waist. Today, dame creso. Pay for your waist, I could pay for your lace. Girl, if you balance Diego, I give you paper. No go do me Diego, my Maradona. Girl, if I lap your sueto, I'm a farisa. Girl, your back, keep it canedo. And I can follow your cresco.
Them say love is hard to find. Well, you know too hard me to find my own. Some people go say love is blind, yo. Yeah. Oh, my love is very much blind, yeah. Try it. You fool my belly, you fool my belly. It's love and you give it a sweet, yo. You fool my belly, you fool my belly. Eat a sweet, I big you a sweet biscuit, yo. I want to be your number one, oh. Your number one, oh.
Brother fall on you, cause I'm in love with you. Money fall on you, banana fall on you, paparazzi follow you, cause I'm in love with you. Are you done talking? Tell me, baby, are you done talking? Yeah. Are you done talking? Tell me, baby, are you done talking? Yeah. Are you done talking? Tell me, baby, are you done talking? Yeah. Are you done talking? Tell me, baby, are you done talking? Yeah. I don't wanna be a player no more. Yeah. I don't wanna be a player no more. Cause my guys call me Cristiano, Mr. Ronaldo, I'm on Nintendo. Cause my guys call me Cristiano, Mr. Ronaldo, I'm on Nintendo. Money fall on you, banana fall on you, Prada fall on you, cause I'm in love with you. Money fall on you, banana fall on you, paparazzi follow you, cause I'm in love with you. If I offend you, because sorry, oh baby, take a toe. Sorry, oh baby, take a toe. I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you, oh baby, nothing of it to change amo, nothing of it to change amo. If I talk, then go say I dey talk. Hey. Tell me why then they use Panadol for our headache. Yeah. How I go chop if my baby no chop? They want to spoil our market. Yeah. I don't wanna be a player no more. Yeah. I don't wanna be a player no more. Cause my guys call me Cristiano, Mr. Ronaldo, I'm on Nintendo. Cause my guys call me Cristiano, Mr. Ronaldo, I'm on Nintendo. Money fall on you, banana fall on you, Prada fall on you, cause I'm in love with you. Money fall on you, banana fall on you, paparazzi follow you, cause I'm in love with you. If I offend you, because sorry, oh baby, take a toe. Sorry, oh baby, take a toe. I'm in love with you, I'm in love with you, oh baby, nothing of it to change amo, nothing of it to change amo.
Another banger. Baby, calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, oh lockdown. Yo, you sweet life, phantom, phantom. If I tell you say I love you, you know they for me, young girl, oh young girl. No, tell me no, 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 oh, 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 oh. Baby, gon' give me your lo, 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 oh, 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 oh. You got me like whoa, 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 whoa. Shawty gon' give me your lo, 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 whoa, whoa, whoa. Small, small one, I know, say she's a bit pass it down one, one. But she feeling insecure, cause her friends go, they go my light ring, go on. Go, they go my light ring, go on.
Yeah, I know we look shy, but for you I get down low. And my hips make you cry when I'm moving around you. Do it once, do it twice. I push back, you hold me tight. Get a taste for a night. Baby, show me you can calm down, calm down. Dance with me and take the lead now, lead now. Got you so high that you can't come down, come down. Don't you ask, you know you're allowed, allowed. When it's you, I can't say no. Oh, 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 oh. Baby, give me oh, 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 oh. You got me like oh, 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 oh. Shawty gon' give me a lo, 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 oh, 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 oh.
As I reach my house, I see me got a small wall. calm down, calm down. Yo, this your body, it puts in my heart for lockdown, oh lockdown. Yo, you sweet life, phantom, phantom. If I tell you say I love you, you know they for me, young girl, oh young girl. No, tell me no, 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 oh, 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 oh. Baby, come give me your lo, 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 oh, 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 oh. You got me like whoa, 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 whoa. Shawty, come give me your lo, 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 oh, 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 oh.
I'ma get no be so. Girl, you want capture my soul. I'ma get no be so. Make you want umbo lumbo. Beru, bye. Beru, beru, bye. I'm loose. Even beru done the para. Tonight in Josie, I'm in Josie. Won't call it for one Josie. I'm not playing with you, I'm not joking. My thought of mom is loaded. Me, you can fag up, but I'm on board. I'm on duty, but I'm on low key. They want do me, they want do me, they want do me, cause they want do me. When you won't want me, when you won't want me, I'm in San Francisco, Jammy. When you won't want me, when you won't want me, I just flew in from Miami. Peru, para, Peru, Peru, para. I'm loose, even Peru done me para. She says you like my tunes, she say me I never seen a girl like you. Say you like my tattoos, tell me I want to be inside you. She's my woman, inside Puna, sweet like sugar. In my new van, come to me, yeah, they swim like tuna. When you won't want me, when you won't want me, I'm in San Francisco, Jammy. When you won't want me, when you won't want me, I just flew in from Miami. Peru, para, Peru, Peru, para. I'm loose, even Peru done the para. Peru, para, Peru, Peru, para. I'm loose, even Peru done the para. Peru, para, Peru, Peru, para. I'm loose, even Peru done the para.
I want to flex my love, I want to impress, and I want to carry my love away to a place she loves. I'm a man, I want to impress, and I want to carry my love away to a place she loves. My body calling, and your body picking. Loving you, they make me forget, say I get problem. By the end of the night, enter bathroom, fresh up. I want to flex my love, I want to impress, and I want to carry my love away to a place she loves. I'm a man, I want to impress, and I want to carry my love away to a place she loves.
Keep that thing from me. Why you gonna do like that? Why you gonna act like you don't know? No, baby, don't do like that. Girl, come feed me, don't be stingy. Why you gonna do like that? No, baby, don't do like that. Oh, I want you to know. See, I like the way you joke. And you sabi do the dance. So you just speak like with you go, 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 go. Baby, you know. Say you carry no be small. Say you told me love, shake like a let's go, girl, I like the way you. I like the way you. I like the way you dance for me. like the way you bounce. Yeah, I like the way you bend like say you want to greet your mommy. You bend like say you want to park your money. Just bend like say you want to kneel for daddy. Just bend like say you don't send anybody. Why you gonna do like that? Why you gonna keep that thing from me? Why you gonna do like that? Why you gonna act like you don't know? No, baby, don't do like that. Baby, don't tell me you don't know that you're beautiful. No, baby, don't do like that. I know you feel it in the bone inside your body. I know you need someone to hold somebody like me. I know you want a piece of me. You wanna say my name, so tell me why you don't want to now.
You tell me say you don't want to waste time, oh, you say them other girls have you stand in line, oh, you tell me say they go watch how we slow wine, oh, you say you want to take control, yeah, you say you want to take control, the way she they do me up there got control, see the way you they roll it up there got control, see my baby want to take control, sexy, for a ballet. So you want to take charge, okay? Girl, I know mine. Go do your thing, girl, I'll be quiet, yeah. I know lie. Baby, when I say it's your time, you say make her hold tight. Now she said she want give me that African waist like Tiwa. She want give me that work like Rihanna. Yeah, Jerry Bush, she rotate TD like a tire. Yeah, she dey make man stand ovation. Abaka don't cause inflation for the nation. You say you want me love to the next time, oh, you tell me say you don't want to waste time, oh, you say them other girls have to stand in line, oh, you tell me say they go watch how we slow wine, oh, you say you want to take control, yeah, you say you want to take control, the way she they do me up there got control. See the way you they roll it off there got control. See my baby want to take control.
Era go get the moolah. Wake up. Con go kala. Kala go yellow dilla. Don't walk, you don't try. You supposed to be jai. Kill up, come become person, matter person we don't mind. Boy, when I land softly on the sofa floor. So far so good, Koni Bajo. Let me see you. Go lo, let me see you. Go lo, bukao. Let me bukao. Let me see you, de buga. Go lo, let me see you. Go lo, bukao. Let me bukao. Let me see you, de buga. Go lo, let me see you. Go lo,
takes you higher. I will forever be intertwined with you. Where the sun never goes down and time has slowed down. Would it be too crazy if we decided to stay forever? Decided to stay forever, forever. Stay forever. Stay, stay. Stay forever. Stay, stay. Stay forever. Stay, stay. Stay forever. Stay forever. Jump into the fire. I'd like to see your wild side. We should run away. Where the sun never goes down and time has slowed down. Would it be too crazy if we decided to stay forever? Decided to stay forever, forever. Stay forever. Stay, stay. Stay forever. Stay, stay. Stay forever. Stay, stay. Stay forever. Stay forever.
All I need one more chance. Oh, baby, let me show you. I need one more chance. Oh, baby, all I need one more chance. Oh, baby, let me show you. I need one more chance. Oh. All I need.
Look, kid. Bad things happen, and you can't do anything about it, right? Wrong. When the world turns its back on you, you turn your back on the world.
Well, that's not what I was told.
Then maybe you need a new lesson. Repeat after me. Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata. It means no worries.
Repeat after me. Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata. It means no worries.
That feels good. Baby.
Just wanna be alone with you. Just wanna be alone with you. Just wanna be alone with you. The same old thing that keeps me around. And if you wanna come around, baby, it's cool. And if you wanna fuck around, baby, I do. Just wanna be alone with you.